Chalo, shall we continue? Chapter 3, second part. What are we going to discuss? Internal controls are done. Correct? Internal controls is done. Now we're going to talk about components of internal control. Ki, जैसे we learn now कि if your body wants to function properly, your eyes should work properly, your brain should work properly, your hand should work properly. So these are all the components. Similarly, when the management can tell कि internal control is good? Only if all these 5 components are there in the internal control. Correct or not? So what are those 5 components? Control environment, risk assessment process, information system, control activities, and monitoring of the controls. Okay, now what is it? Again, very deep concept. I'll just give an overhead heads up to you guys. Okay, what is this? Control environment. See, every company has to maintain an environment. What kind of environment? An environment of ethical values, honesty. Correct or not? Whenever you join in a company as an employee, I'll tell you, whenever you join as an employee in a company, they'll give you an appointment letter. You know, in that appointment letter, they'll give you various rules, regulations, conditions, policies. Correct or not? That they have to make it. Who has to make it? The management, the TCWG. TCWG, understand, those charged with governance. Those are the people over and above management. CEOs, MDs, CFOs. They make those policies and procedures in which all those rules, regulations, conditions, policies, etc. will be written and given it to all the employees. You tell me, is it optional or mandatory to follow? Of course, mandatory. Those are those policies and procedures. Why they are giving it to you? Because they want to maintain that culture of honesty. They want to maintain that culture of ethical values. They want everybody to work ethically. They'll write, you know, if you do this and if you forgot, we'll take this much of penalty, we'll do this, we'll remove you, etc. That is called as control environment. Even here, we are maintaining a control environment. Everybody must come on time. Faculty must come on time. We have to give you materials. Correct or not? We are maintaining that culture of honesty. If anything is wrong, we're going to tell you. If anything is right, we're going to tell you. Similarly, here also. Management, you please create and maintain a culture of honesty and ethical values. The strength in the control environment elements collectively provide an appropriate foundation for the other components. If your environment is good, automatically the other components of internal control will also be good. Understood? Kya? Perfect or not? It's like the roots. If your dad and your mom are good, automatically the children will also be same thing here. If the control environment is good, automatically the other components will also be good because it's the base, foundation. So it is a foundation. So you have to mark this part. Okay, now, what is control environment? Then please mark this also. They ask in an examination for 4 mark questions. What is control environment and what is included in the control environment? What is included? First one, the governance and the management functions. How the company is governed and how the company is being managed. It must be managed in a ethical way, honesty. The attitude, the awareness, the actions of TCWG. That means we are talking about the attitude of the TCWG and the management. Can I say more like a reputation, their integrity? Correct or not? And last one, control environment sets the tone of an organization, including control consciousness of the people. If the control environment is good, see, we all have that mindset. No, Tata sir, the Tata company is good. They will never cheat it. Why? Because they have set a tone of that organization. They have maintained that environment. Ratan Tata sir is always being that good, correct? And automatically, when you do want to do business with Tata, you have that mindset, no? Why? Because even the employees over there have got that consciousness. We are a part of Tata company. Even Ratan Tata sir, like we also. So they have to maintain that policies and procedures. Then comes the elements of control environment. For maintaining that proper ethical and honesty culture in the control environment, what are the different body parts of the control environment? First, we understood different body parts of internal control. Now we understand different body parts of the control environment. Again, see the heading: communication and enforcement of integrity and ethical values. See, if you want to make sure that the control environment is good, first communicate. Communicate all those policies, those procedures. Who has to communicate to whom? TCWG management has to communicate to the employees and enforce it. Enforce it means make them understand the importance that we have to do the business with integrity and ethical values. Only if they communicate it, employees will follow it. If the TCWG management are least bothered, they'll also be least bothered. Then comes commitment by competence. Please make sure that whatever employees, whatever TCWG management you are having, they are committed towards working towards greater heights. Correct or not? Their commitment should be towards competence. That means they must have skills, knowledge, and experience. Participation by TCWG. I'll explain this in 2 points. TCWG, 2 things I'm going to explain. One, they must not be over involved in day-to-day affairs because they're TCWG. If they're involved in the day-to-day affairs too much, it is wrong. That means they're involved in some kind of fraud. Because you are TCWG, that work day-to-day affairs is going to be handled by employees. Don't be too much involved and don't be too much ignorant. Your participation is required. Not too much, not too less. Understood? Kya? Then management's philosophy and operating style. Basically, they're talking about management's philosophy towards accounting practices, towards accounting estimates. Are they following accounting standards properly or not? And next, organizational structure and assignment of authority responsibility. Together, I'll tell you, you would have learned in your lesson various kinds of structures: simple structure, functional structure, divisional structure, multi-divisional structure. Based on the company's size, the structure must change. And according to that, you must assign the authority and responsibility. Who must get what kind of responsibility? Please have proper segregation of duties. That is this point. And last one, it is a separate question. They asked this in the examination on this particular point. Human resource policies and practices. Please, every company, make sure that you hire those kinds of humans only which are best for your company. You always, before hiring the company, check whether they are checking the history of the employees or not, whether they are competent enough or not. You can ask them, why did you leave your previous company? Understood? Kya? Then this is a separate hidden question which was asked in Jan 25. It is asked in Jan 25 only. Existence of a satisfactory control environment, not an absolute deterrent to fraud. What is the heading? Existence. That means there is a satisfactory control environment, a good control environment, but it is not an absolute deterrent to fraud. Manje, meaning even if you have the best control environment, best policies and procedures frame, best way to communicate to the employees, can you tell ki 100% there will be no fraud in your company? Can you tell that there will be absolute deterrent, absolute stopping of frauds? If you have a good control environment, satisfactory control environment, can you tell there is an absolute deterrent of frauds? No. Having a satisfactory control environment is a good thing. It adds value to your company. But you cannot tell that my control environment is the best, there will be no fraud in my company. Nobody can give that assurance. Even the management cannot tell, my control environment is very good. I maintain that particular honesty, ethical values, my employees are best. There today, tomorrow, there will be never any fraud. You cannot give a guarantee. In examination, they ask like this only the question. Existence of satisfactory control not absolute deterrent fraud, dash, explain. Write this answer. So chances in your attempt to become is very less because in Jan already they have tested. Entities risk assessment process already told you key, like how we have to identify ROMM, company themselves will have business risk. They must have some separate department in the company to identify those risks, assess those risks, identify the impact of this risk, magnitude of that risk, probability of that risk, and how to give a response to that risk. There's a procedure, no? Even they will have to follow it. See, they will have a process to identify the risk, estimate the risk, assess the risk, and what kind of response they have to give to the risk. This is something which the management has to implement. Understood? We are talking about the control environment. We are talking about the components of internal control. Who has to set up? Management. So all this is from management's perspective we are talking about. Then comes information system. You can read it on your own. Basically, this entire part is talking about the accounting system. What system? Accounting system. Basically, they're talking about the tally, the software which they're using. Okay, please, your tally software, proper entry should be passed, proper authorized person should have been passed, proper control should be there for journal entries. Make sure if there is any unusual transaction, proper controls must be there. All these points are covered over here. Accounting software. Then comes controlling activities, which is the real meaning of internal control system. If I tell you the pura internal controls, entire internal controls, if I ask you what is exactly internal controls, this is that internal controls. Literally, this is that paragraph, the second paragraph. Here they are talking about what are actually internal controls. What is included in internal controls? Can you see? Internal controls, control activities relevant to audit. Relevant to audit generally includes policies and procedures relating to performance reviews. That means review of actual performance with the budgets. If you're doing this, this is called as control activity because you want to make sure that you have a control over your actual performance which should match with the budgets. Then, for example, controls over checking and arithmetical accuracy. Physical controls, controls over what? Physical assets, cash, plant and machinery, stocks, controls over them is also covered under control activities. Segregation of duties, each and every person should have been given their own roles and responsibilities. One person should not have been given multiple responsibilities. If you have segregation of duties properly, it is a control activity. And last one, they have given one more segregation of duties. Complete this much. Perfect. And these are the example. This is the most important paragraph for control activities. Monitoring of controls, very simple. Whatever controls the company has implemented, they are going to have to monitor it. After implementing the controls, you again have to monitor whether whatever you planned and you implemented, whether it is being implemented and followed in the same way or not. Even you do monitoring of controls. How? You read one chapter, then you write a test. Same thing here also. They make the controls, they implement the controls, they tell employees to follow it. But again, they'll have to keep a check whether everybody is following it in the same way which we communicated or not. It is an important question, monitoring of controls. Okay. Then comes, are all controls relevant to audit? This you can learn it. Key, what are the factors which you will consider key whether this control is relevant to your audit or not? If that control is very material, it is important to audit. If it is related to a significant risk, it is relevant to your audit. Based on the size of the entity, you will make sure whether those controls are relevant to the audit or not. So all these are various factors which the auditor will consider whether a control is relevant to the audit or not. Factors whether control is relevant to the audit or not. Those are those points. 4.7 RMN, nothing important. 4.8 mug you do it mug. Why? Internal controls over safeguarding of assets. See, whenever it comes to assets, there are two types of safeguardings. There are two types of control. One is control over financial reporting. One is control over physical assets. What is control over financial reporting and control over? One is whatever fixed assets are there, whatever assets are there, they must be properly recorded in the financial statements. That is one kind of control. That is one kind of control. Whatever assets are there, they must be properly recorded in the financial statements. This is called as financial reporting. Second one is operation objectives. That means their physical condition also. What physical condition of the assets are also to be made sure that they are covered by internal controls. And like cash is there, cash should be under proper lock and draw, correct or not? That is under operation objectives. So safeguarding of assets should be in both financial reporting also, operational objectives also. Then this 4.9, it is very okay, you put it as RMN. Controls which are not relevant to audit. For example, they have given an example of this. You're doing an audit of an airline company. Taken up. In that they will have those controls also, no? That if you have seen in movies, that one big room will be there, and that flight arrival time, flight dispatch, which flight is flying where, correct? Those are those controls, automated controls. You think and tell me, and is it under scope of an auditor? When flight is flying, which time, which height it is flying, that is not good. So not all controls are relevant to audit, especially these kinds of controls which are not under the scope of an auditor. But if law regulation tells you, okay, those controls specifically for this company, you check it. You will check it. 4.10, do it mug from here. Do it mug from here. They're basically telling how you're going to check controls. Same thing. I told you, no, OICRR, by inquiry, observing, inspection, all those points. Take a look. This is again an important question. Risks that requires special consideration. They're telling there are few risks of material misstatement where normal audit procedures is okay. You have to give a special consideration also. Think and tell me, will the risk will be too much high or too low for these? Too high. So we are going to talk about risk of fraud or risk of error. Risk of fraud. We're going to talk about risk related to related party transactions. We are going to talk about risk related to unusual transactions. Unusual transaction once in a blue moon they will occur, no? That you have to, there special consideration you have to give it. Understood kya? So those are the examples. Risk of fraud, risk related to significant technological changes, economical changes, complexity of the transaction. The transaction is very complex. Please give more consideration. Risk involves significant transaction with related parties. Degree of subjectivity, provisions, uncertainties. If it is very uncertain, too much of subjectivity is involved, please give special consideration. When the risk involves any significant transaction that are outside the normal course of the business. See, if any, most of the transactions should be within the normal course of the business. Okay, but if you find any one transaction which is outside the normal course of the business, give special consideration over there. Then comes identifying significant risk. It's a mug question. Taken up. We are going to learn something called as non-routine transaction. Taken up. They have considered two transactions to be very significant. We have done A, B, C, D, E, F. No, from this they have picked two. What are those two? One is misstatements due to fraud, and second one they have combined 2 points. Combined 2 points: significant unusual transactions with related parties. See that or no? Transaction with related parties that are outside the normal course of the business. That means unusual transactions. Okay, now this is very simple. You can do it on your own. 5.2 it's a mug one. 5.3 it is skip, not required. Then comes evaluation of internal control system. Benefits of evaluating the internal control. See, one is to we understand the internal controls. Now we are supposed to evaluate the internal control. Check whether those internal controls which are implemented are working properly or not. So what is the benefits if you evaluate the internal control? It is very simple. If you evaluate it, that means if you go and check the internal controls, you will identify whether the internal controls are present or not present. If they are present, whether they are effectively working or not. If they are working effectively, check whether the frauds and errors are being identified or not. These are the points which they have discussed. See, whether errors and frauds are likely to be located or not. If internal controls you have evaluated, you will get to know whether errors and frauds are likely to be located or not. whether adequate internal control system is in use or not, or chuma they have just made the internal control system but they are not using it. Effective internal auditing department is there or not. See, internal auditors are there. Their job is the same what a stat auditor does, but even more bigger. They check each and everything what they can. So check whether internal auditing department is working effectively or not. Whether at this point you skip it. This point you skip it, no need to read. You do point number 1, point number 2, point number 3. Directly come to point number 4. Whether controls are effectively safeguarding the assets or not. Then comes direct to the 7 point. No, 7.11. Come to the next, these points. There are how many points total? 11 points. I told you to make only 7 or 8 points in the class. Yes. Point number 1, 2, 3. Point number 5. Then all these points, I guess. Take it up. Check whether appropriate audit technique, audit procedure in the given circumstances. Areas where the control is weak. If you evaluate the internal control system, you'll get to know which areas the internal control is weak, which areas the internal control is excessive. And last one, whether any worthwhile suggestions can be given to the management or not. Understood? Kya? Then this entire thing again you do just from here you do mug, from here till here you do mug. Okay, this rest entire thing you do RML. What is this part telling? Again, we did one secret question. No secret question. Existence of a satisfactory control environment, not same like that only. What is adding? Formulate an audit program only after understanding the internal control. If you remember, we did something called as audit program in chapter 2. Correct or not? Yeah. What was audit program? That instruction series of verification procedures given by a partner to the article assistants. They're telling you think and tell me. Without understanding the entity, can you form the audit program? First, understand. Without understanding how much is the syllabus, can you make your timetable? You cannot, because few subjects are huge, few subjects are small, few chapters are tough, few chapters. Similarly, once you have understood the internal control, only then you make an audit program. Because you'll understand which area internal control is strong, which area internal control is weak. Accordingly, you'll make the audit program and give it to the assistants. They have written that thing. If you don't understand the internal control, without understanding, if you formulate an audit program, your entire audit is going to be a waste of time. Two reasons. Either your audit program will be too bulky, which is not required, or your audit program will be too halka, too small, which is again wrong. Make it appropriate to the internal control system. Understood? Kya? Then comes the methods to evaluate. We understand, no? We have to evaluate the internal controls. Methods, damn important. I feel in this attempt they're going to ask one question because they have not tested in last 2 attempts. Very important. There are 4 methods to evaluate the internal control. What are those 4 methods? Narrative record, checklist, internal control questionnaire, flowchart. Without jumping into detail, I just explain like this. What is narrative record? What is narrative record? In detail, writing a brief description, exhaustive description of the entire internal control system in a paper. It's called as narrative record. When can you go with narrative record? When the entity is small in size. If it is very huge, it is going to be very irritating. Taken off. Because if you want to refer tomorrow, it will be very huge, no? So narrative record is basically the entire description, exhaustive description of the entire internal control system of the entity. When we do it, when the entity is very small and when the internal control system is informal. Because if it is for small, automatically the internal control system will be informal. That is narrative record. Then it comes checklist. What is checklist? If you come here, checklist. What is checklist? It is basically a paper. What you make when you go for traveling, no? So you'll make a paper. 2 shirts, 2 pants, 1 belt, 1 spectacles, and you'll put a tick the moment you keep it inside your suitcase. Same thing over here. We will write a series of questions, series of instructions, which a member of the auditing team must follow. That means I'm the audit member. Taken. I'll make that list. What and all things I have to check for the internal controls. Taken. I'll write all those questions. I'll check one and I'll put a tick. I'll put a tick under yes if the internal control is there. I'll put a tick under no if the internal control is not there. I'll put a tick under NA, not applicable if it is not applicable. Who has to put this tick? The auditing staff himself. This is called as checklist. If the same thing, taking a paper, writing those questions, but now it is not being tick by the auditing staff member. It is being tick by the company. It is called as internal control questionnaire. Explaining internal control questionnaire. I'll make the paper. I'll have various questions, instructions. Yes, no, not applicable, 3 columns. I'm not going to go there and tick. I'll give it to the company. Company will circulate it towards all its employees who are responsible for that particular department. They themselves are supposed to tick yes and no. This is called as internal control question. Understood the difference between checklist and internal control question? And last one is flowchart. What is flow? These boxes, no, don't read it. You skip it. Good chance that they might ask in the examination, but no use of reading it. You'll not be able to answer it. So ignore these boxes. These are those examples of internal control questionnaire for each of those departments like purchases, sales, stock. Ignore it. Coming to flowchart, again a 4-mark question. If they ask it, please write it. It is very easy. Flowchart, it is complete opposite of narrative record. Narrative record was a brief description. Flowchart, through flowcharts, you are going to write the entire, you are going to describe the entire internal control system of the company. Understood? Flowchart, you understand? No. Through arrow marks, to boxes, etc. Through that flowchart, you're going to write the entire internal control system which you have checked. Why? It gives a bird's eye view. Bird's eye view, like that, you can get the entire overview. Everything is in very short, precise. Changes can be made easily. Correct or not? Yeah. That is flowchart. Very important. Those 4 methods you have to do it. Then comes testing of internal controls. Read it from here till here. Only this much you're supposed to mark. This much. This much you're supposed to mark. Then directly from here, test of controls may include, and this box. This box. Take it. This much you have to mark. Rest entire the 2 pages is RMN. Entire 2 pages is RMN. Okay. What is this? Test or testing of internal control. Were you, as an auditor, were you there in the company throughout the year? You were not there. You want to make sure whether the internal control system which the company has maintained, no, whether they were working throughout the year or not. You wanted to check whether the internal controls are working throughout the year or not. For that, this is written. Test of controls is one of the procedure. You remember, no? TOC. TOC is one of the procedure which the auditor performs it right after assimilating. Assimilating means understanding. After understanding the internal control system, the auditor now needs to examine whether and how far the same is in actual operation, whether it is being used actually or not. On that, we do sampling basis also. Okay, now we'll do a sampling basis. We want to check whether the design of internal control system is proper and whether the operation of internal control system was there throughout the period or.
So your voice is breaking, the video is stuck.
Okay, just a minute. Check, continue. I told key testing of internal controls is basically the TOC, the test of controls procedure. Why do we perform this? Because I told you, after understanding, evaluating the internal control system, we want to make sure what? That the controls were working effectively throughout the year. For that, we are going to perform TOC. How we are going to perform TOC? Here it is. Inspection, inquiries, reperformance, and testing of those internal controls which are working on specified computer applications. I told you, know, under all those Papa level procedures, those are those Bacha level procedure, which is OIC RRR. So again, for TOC, we are going to perform inspection, inquiries, reperformance. Reperformance, what is reperformance? You remember? Originally performed by the management. Again, we are performing it. Correct or not? So these 4 things we will perform again to check whether the internal controls were working throughout the year or not. Understood? For example, randomly I'll take 5 sales invoices of a particular month. If those sales invoices, if there is some misstatement, what will I get an answer? In that particular month, internal controls were not effective. Understood? Kya? Did you understand what I did just now? Yes. Rest the entire part. Just do RMN, not important. What is written? You know, if at all the auditor does some inquiry and he gets some deviations from the internal controls, he has to talk to the management. He has to talk to the TCWG. Taken up. All those basic stuffs have been written in the entire paragraph. What you have to mug is only this much. This and this one. They'll ask in the examination, the test of controls may include what? You have to write these 4 points and come. Understood? Kya? Okay, being very honest, automated environment, every attempt, it comes 1 question for 4 marks. Every attempt, 1 question comes for 4 marks. It is better that you do, if you are very thorough in audit, if you have good amount of time, you do the mugging of, it is some 8 or 10 pages. How many pages? 8 or 10 pages. If you are okay to do it, do it. Mug it. Take care. Be very honest, the entire part is mug. Entire 8 pages is mug. Take care. Different multiple questions are there. The good part is I have made audio clips. Those who don't have audio clips online also, I'm telling you, like how you message me, hi sir Bharadwaj, send the question bank. Today again message me, hi sir Bharadwaj, your name, and tell me audio clips. I have made a Google Drive link in which the entire link there, in that link basically there are small audio clips of each and every topic. In one of the topic is automated environment. Taken up. It is hardly some 20 minutes audio clip. Listen to that audio clip, your entire automated environment will get covered. Taken. It is very simple. Like that, I made audio clips for the entire audit syllabus itself. Taken up. For chapter 1, I've done the chapter 1 in 20 minutes, 25 minutes. Chapter 2 in some 30-35 minutes. Chapter 11 again some 45 minutes. Through audio. You just have to keep your modules open, keep the audio there, put your earphones, and just listen what I'm trying to tell. Understood? Yeah. So refer automated environment through the audio clips. Today you message me, I'll send you the clip. To my knowledge, there are few topics which I have not made the audio clips, and I remember I made it for automated environment. If not, I'll make it today and I'll send it to you. Understood? Yeah. Okay. So this part we'll keep it on audio clips only. Coming to the rest part, data analytics, even this I'll consider a part of the automated this thing. What do I say? Audio clips only. Directly come to this internal financial controls as per regulatory requirements. What is this? Sad part, May 24 they asked a question from this. Again they asked a question in September 24 also. January they did not ask. So it's a good chance they might ask in May again. 2 attempts continuously ask the question. What is it? Internal financial controls. Internal financial controls. What we learned was internal control system. What here it is? Internal financial controls. It is almost the same. Only difference is internal control system is given by ICAI. Internal financial control is given by Companies Act. Internal control system is given by ICAI auditor. ICS you are supposed to check. Companies Act told ICS is very important. They just change the name to IFCs. Internal financial controls, and they told ki there are too many regulatory requirements ki auditor. After you check the internal financial controls, no, you are supposed to give a report also. Report matlab in your normal auditor's report, you are supposed to mention something about IFCs. Understood kya? And there are various other things also. So if you remember internal controls, 4 objectives were there. You remember 4 objectives for internal controls? Reliability of FR, safeguarding of assets, compliance with laws and regulations, effectiveness and efficiency of operations. Same 4 points are here also. Copy paste 4 points. Objectives of internal control. Plus one more point, prevention and detection of fraud, which I would say common. It is there for internal control system also, but they have not mentioned it. Understood? Yeah. This is something which they test in the examination. This and this. Okay. All these are sections of your Companies Act. All these are sections of your Companies Act. Key, what is the relevant provision of Companies Act related to internal financial controls? 134 talks about director's responsibility statement. If you have learned in your law, in along with your board's report, there is one statement to be attached which is called as director's responsibility statement. That means they are going to give what are the responsibilities of directors. One of the responsibility what they have to mention is directors are responsible for design implementing the internal financial controls. That thing they have written. That shall state that directors have laid down the IFCs as accordance with the Companies Act. 143.3. This talks about auditor's report. Auditor, in your report you have to state कि internal control system, internal financial controls the company has maintained, implemented, but it is not applicable for few companies. What? It is not applicable for few companies. What are those? 1-person company or a small company. For OPC and small company, this IFC ka reporting is not allowed. Not allowed, not required. Or any private company, it is written, no, this requirement shall not apply to a private company. So can it be public company? So it is mandatorily applied. You have to put it in your report. But what about private company? 1-person company, small company, not required. Any other private company having a turnover less than 50 crores and which has aggregate borrowings from any FIs or anybody of less than 25 crores. It is and. If you see the condition is and. If both the conditions are fulfilled, again for that particular private company, IFC reporting is not required. 177 talks about audit committee. Audit committee, even you are supposed to check the evaluation of IFCs. And last one, 149.8. 149.8 talks about independent directors. That independent directors should also check whether the internal financial controls are appropriate or not. So there are 4 people covered. One is the directors, auditors, audit committee, independent directors. Understood? Kya? Then coming documenting the risk, this you can read it on your own. Very simple. Whatever you have done, you have to document it. Then this is also simple. You have to assess and report the audit findings. Coming to SA 330. SA 330, I'll be very honest. It is kutty, little irritating to mug, but simple. What is SA 330? Auditors' responses to assess risk. If you have seen the order, the flow, SA 315, we identified and assessed the risk. SA 320, we set up a materiality and we did the audit. Now, after you identified the risk of material misstatement, you have to give a response, right? That is covered under SA 330. How will you give a response? There are multiple ways of giving a response to an assessed risk. One is directly go and inform it to the TCWG management. That is one option. Second option, if it is very big misstatement, directly go and report it in your auditor's report. Or the third, which is the basic one, which we always follow. What? Performing further audit procedures. Whenever we want to give a response to the assessed risk, we perform further audit procedures to check whether how much more misstatements are there, whether it is material or not material. In that way we check those risks. So in this entire essay 330, what I give three options, no? Either report it in your report, or inform it to the TCWG, or perform further audit procedures, which is covered in this essay 330. Perform further audit procedures. If you have seen further audit procedures, it is TOC and SP. We are going to talk about SP over here in detail, because TOC is already covered above. A small gist of TOC is given here. See, essay 330 states, it is somewhere here. Auditor shall design and perform TOC. This thing you can do it. I want to focus more on the SP part. SP part, TOD and SAP. That means whenever the auditor identifies a risk, he will give a response to the risk by either performing TOD, or he will perform SAP, or he will perform both. Who will decide which one to perform? Auditor. Understood? The auditor will decide whether he wants to perform just TOD, or he just wants to perform SAP, or he wants to perform both. Understood? Pakka kya? Okay. So they're telling essay 330, the auditor will give a response to the assessed risk. In giving that response, the auditor will first check whether the misstatement is at the financial statement level, or is it at the assertion level. I told you, if it is at the financial statement level, there is no sense of performing any procedures. Directly go and give it into the report. If it is at assertion level, this you have to do it. See, in designing further audit procedures, please check the likelihood. Likelihood matlab probability of that misstatement, and check whether those risks are covered under any controls or not, whether there are controls over that risk or not. Understood? Then directly coming over here, this TOC and all you can do it. Take it. TOC you can do it, whether how the controls are applied, the consistency of those controls, by whom and what means those controls are applied. This is very simple. Directly coming over here, which I want to focus more on, test of details. I want to focus more on this point. Why? This is something which I feel they are going to ask. Test of details is nothing but vouching and verification. If you see, there is a good MCQ over here, this particular line. Test of details are further classified into test of transactions. What? Test of transaction. Test of transaction is nothing but vouching. Vouching is nothing but P&L items. Just underline vouching and write P&L items. Test of balances, which is nothing but verification, which is nothing but for balance sheet item. So I would say test of details is nothing but test of transactions or test of balances. Test of transaction is nothing but vouching. Vouching is nothing but P&L items. Test of balances is nothing but balance sheet items and nothing but verification. Understood? What is it? You are literally going to take invoices and you're going to check, vouch it, date, amount, etc. Understood? This is called as test of details. What is substantive analytical procedures? 100 times explained you. It's the same meaning only. Analytical procedures means doing some kind of analysis by forming relationships or doing some kind of comparison between financial data, financial, non-financial data. Understood? So this same thing is written completely RMN. Completely RMN. This is something which I already told you. The nature and extent of these substantive procedures. How many substantive procedures are there? 2. TOD, SAP. Substantive procedures. TOD, SAP. Don't forget that chart. RAP, FAP. FAP में TOC, SP. SP में TOD, SAP. So they are talking about SP. So SP में it is TOD and SAP. Who will decide how much to perform, what to perform? Auditor. The auditor can perform solely TOD. The auditor can perform solely SAP. The auditor can perform both. It is his call. It is written the same thing. Performing only SAP would be sufficient, or only test of details would be sufficient, or a combination of SAP and TOD would be sufficient. Understood? Take care. All depends on what assessment of risk of material misstatement he has done. Understood? With this, we are done with chapter 3. Now, I'm going to tell you something about chapter 3. Focus what I'm trying to tell. If I divide the chapter into part number 1, which is audit risk, that 8 pages. Part number 2, materiality, again some 8-10 pages. Then part number 3, which is all about internal control system. Part number 4, automated control, which I told you, audio clips. And part number 5 is essay 330. Out of all these 5 parts, I would suggest you to first read audit risk, which is very simple. Then I would suggest you to read materiality, which is again very simple. In that internal controls, which was around 30 pages, correct or not? Internal control around 30 pages. Apart from that, components of internal control, that 5 components were there, no? Apart from that, do the rest. Components of internal control, just read the headings, those 5 components, and do entire component just RMN. Just do RMN. Automated environment, I told 3 parts: materiality, audit risk, internal controls. The other 2 parts are what? Automated environment and SA 330. SA 330 do entire RMN. Entire SA 330 just do RMN. Entire automated controls, if you're able to mug it, because see, 8 pages. For those who find it easy, they will mug everything and they will sure write that 4 marks. It is like that for 8 pages 4 marks, I want to grab it. It is like that audit documentation chapter 6. 10 pages, 4 marks, 1 question, you can grab it. If you're able to remember automated controls, mugging is possible, grab it that 4 marks. Else, do RMN and come. Understood kya? Understood chapter 3. Pakka, shall we take a break now? Saptam break, shall we take? Online, shall we take a Sapatam break? Breakfast break, shall we take? Go for a breakfast break. It is 9:35. We'll meet at, sorry, 9:10 it is. I'm sorry. 9:10 we'll meet at 9:45. 9:45 is good. 9:45 come back. 9:45 and we'll start with chapter 4. Chapter 4 में pending essays we'll do. Chapter 7 में 1 or 2 essays we'll do. We'll close it off. Done?